Weganawaga Rona, welcome to another episode of Straight Talk. I'm one of your hosts, Michael Stock Sr.
I'm Christine Taylor.
And Ross Montour.
Good
Afternoon.
afternoon.
Yeah, welcome to the program, right? All right, so what are we going to start off with this afternoon?
I guess we'll talk about the new trade qualification program that is being implemented or
Okay,
possibly.
what exactly is like a trades qualifications program? I'm
With
just
all-
curious.
With all the issues surrounding the bridge and the work that's been going on,
Right.
the union or the union men from Ganawage had some concerns about some of the individuals who were working there, that they weren't qualified to work there or didn't have all their cards according to Quebec, you know, the CCQ cards, the safety cards and all them. So, you know, it's been a long history now for the last 2 years, I guess, with
Right.
what we're working on the bridge, and that was a lot of the contentious issues at the time. Anyway, for Phase B, it's a I don't have the person's name with me, but it's a non-native contractor who's doing Phase B, and as a result of that, he's going to be using the union rules and regulations as far as that's concerned. So in order to not eliminate any of the people, men or women in Ganawage, to work on Phase B, if they don't have their qualifications, they're going to get it. And there's also the ones that do or don't have them all. There's going to be a process of, I guess, reviewing everyone's qualifications and see who has it, who can go to work immediately, and who needs what programs in order to qualify.
Yeah. Or say if somebody has the qualifications in the States, then it kind of has, will they be able to like do like an equivalency type of thing here or from a different
Well,
province?
this is now because it's being presented. This is a jurisdictional issue about Ganawage's own certification process being recognized. It's on the same battle as, say, Mohawk's MSI, Mohawk Self Insurance,
Okay.
versus CSST.
All right, so these things are
Okay.
being worked out.
Well, yeah. Well, but one of the Rhonda Kirby was talking about it earlier this week on the talk show. As was Louis Stacy, and so we're talking about it as being something being put into place that would be recognized by the outside. Now, one of the things that I see with that is that right now, it's been, say, passed at the table within Mohawk Council. It's now been sent to Quebec to go through a legislative process, but as far as I can see, I don't know that necessarily means that Quebec is going to comply. One of the things that historically with Ganawage, if you go back to an order in council back to, I think it's like 1932, there was an order in council in Canada that said that priority had to be given to the Mohawks of Ganawage for any work on that bridge.
And a specific work. But there was a press conference last week.
Right. That's what we're going to take a look at right now to fill you in on more information. Stay tuned to Straight Talk.
The program itself is basically, all it is to ensure that applicants meet the minimum requirements to work in construction on the bridge project. That's all it is. It has nothing to do with union or non-union. It's a qualifications program. It's to verify that people worked so many hours in the construction industry, in the ironworking industry. That's all it is.
Rather than have the CCQ come over into the Bridgeworks and apply the certification, it's going to be the Ganawage certification that's going to take place for Phase B, and not the outside rules and regs. So it's a recognition of the position of the MCK and the authority of the MCK and the respect for it by the Quebec government. So it is a matter of jurisdiction.
The work is scheduled to start on Part B sometime in February. They are looking for a number of men for mid-January, as well as a larger group mid-February. So we're hoping to have all of the applications that also went out yesterday. to the community for people to make their applications, as well as people who might be interested to be on the qualifications committee.
If anyone in this community has an interest to work on the bridge project, this program is in place. Apply. If you meet the minimum requirements, you'll get the card. Your name will go on the eligibility list that you're qualified to work on the bridge. And that ends it for this project.
And welcome back to Straight Talk. We're now going to continue with the program, and the next item on our agenda, so to speak, is that according to Gus Skydeer, that whole complaint that happened and what's going on there. Do you have any?
You know, Regan had contacted the peacekeepers, and they said that the file did go to Longueuil, and it wasn't the file
It wasn't a local decision.
and the file wasn't approved in Longueuil court. So, you know, I don't know if it's a dead issue from there. Obviously, criminally, they didn't accept the charges,
Right.
so they dismissed the charge.
The charges were it says here the charges were dropped. Are they
Yeah.
dropped or
Yeah,
are
they-
they dismissed?
Well, it's just basically the same thing. They
Or
just
they
didn't.
just
They
said
just didn't accept
They
them.
just didn't warrant
Yeah.
the
But
charges.
this
You
is
have to
based on what's presented,
Yeah,
right?
you have to lay a charge anyway, regardless whether or not they take that charge, or whether or not they change it or downgrade it or upgrade it. It's up to the Crown prosecutor to make that decision based on the information of the police at the time. So either, you know, whether it wasn't accepted, or whether they just dropped the charges, because I think that there was a charge prior to from the police, and there was a promise to appear with conditions that had gone with that. So,
Right.
and that's a normal practice for the police to do, to make sure that there's no further incidents between the two individuals until they have to go to court. But now, after the Crown makes that decision, then any conditions or anything else is just wiped off the, you know, there's never any track of it other than, yes, there was a file.
Yeah.
But
So-
potentially, I just want to ask, because you know that in the community, there would be people who would be inclined to say, yes, but it depends on what kind of work the peacekeepers or parties in the peacekeepers, what they bring to the investigation, what information do they pass along, which may influence whether or not a Crown will pursue charges or not, whether it was done or whether it was decided beforehand to play something down so that it didn't get accepted.
There's a lot of factors that are involved in that, you know, as far as how the file is presented and how it's brought and how, because there's different ways of doing it when you're bringing files to either Longueuil or they're being accepted here in Kahnawake, as far as the information flow or how it's presented, whether the officer's sitting there, whether he's not, whether it is being dropped off, whether, you know, there's a lot of different factors involved in that. If the peacekeepers had done the investigation and it was a council chief, then I don't think that should have happened. I think it should have been another police department that done the investigation. Just so that, not saying that they're going to do something wrong, it's just that I think the transparency from the Mohawk Council to the peacekeepers, people, you know, a lot of people still say that it's, regardless of the peacekeepers and the Mohawk Council, it's the same. You know, and then they've said that in years, and there is some influence in the Mohawk Council, in the peacekeepers. They can deny it all they want, but I've seen it in all the years
When
that I
you
was
take
there.
if you
so,
take into
yeah.
account degrees of separation, that you would say that one of the parties involved has a brother or a sister on council, whatever it might be, you know, did they ever, you know, work for the PKs, et cetera, et cetera. It would make sense, it would be prudent to say, well, then pass it along.
But I don't-
remove
I don't-
it.
you
But
know,
those
don't
are,
think
but,
that's
but those,
influenced,
but I
yeah.
think that those are issues that come up anyway. Because a lot of times, if we say that, well, there is influence, so we take it on the outside and we give it to the outside with what we have, and then you know, there's all sorts of different.
We
things
talked
that
about this before many times, and a lot of the issues is the same thing, and I'll bring it up again. The same thing is because we don't have anything in place to oversee the overseers, whether it's a Mohawk Council chief or whether it's a police or anything else. I mean, they do have mechanisms in place, but who oversees that if the decision is not, if people don't agree with that? Where is the transparency? A lot of people believe that there's none. So how do you do that? There should be sort of like a community committee or somebody, like, even though they may say there's a police accountability board and there's all these that they create that is there. So are we going to duplicate the system, or are we, you know, it's what are you going to be satisfied with one way or in another? And that's what it comes down to.
All right. Well, again, a lot more discussion to get to. Eventually, what we're going to do is we're going to take a break, and we'll be back to talk about more topics that concern you right here on Straight Talk.